Hi, my name is Scott Dahl. I want to thank you for tuning into another podcast. I thought I'd do something a little different this time, bringing in somebody who's unrelated to the markets but would produce very, very valuable information. So I've got Alan Baylis, who is a experienced traffic ticket attorney. Anytime you get a ticket, regardless of what it is, a DUI, a standard ticket, it's always good to call him because he might be able to get you out of that ticket. There's a lot of things that we as lay people don't know. So again, I'm looking forward to this. And Alan, you're a lifelong resident of California, correct?
Yes, I was born in Hollywood, California. It doesn't get any more Californian than that.
Have you ever done any acting?
No, I can't say that I have.
So Alan's been working on traffic tickets for over 20 years. He's been in the business. I always said when I'd hear him on the radio, I'd say if I ever got a ticket, this is the man I would want to talk to. So Alan, if you'd like to tell us or maybe expand on that, tell us what you do, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty and we'll figure out or get information on what we do when we get pulled over in different scenarios.
A lot of people don't realize that, traffic ticket defense, there are attorneys out there that do this kind of work, myself included, of course. A lot of people, most people, don't hire an attorney to handle their traffic case. That can very often be a pretty big mistake, especially if you think you're going to go into court and do the trial on your own. It's generally not going to work out too well for you. There's a lot of nuance and quirks in the laws that relates to traffic cases, and I have some of the Orange County's top criminal defense lawyers that handle, capital murder cases. They won't do their own traffic ticket case. They call me.
So would you advise that somebody call you on any ticket that they get?
Certainly, because as long as it's a traffic ticket, not a parking ticket. I do not do parking tickets. They're usually not worth the time and effort to have an attorney deal with them. I know that, parking tickets do have a tendency to piss people off, but it's just not something I'm going to get involved in. But yeah, especially moving violations that are going to potentially put points on your record. Some people just go ahead and pay the fine and do the traffic school, which in many cases you can do.
It's online now. I got a speeding ticket about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's ridiculously easy. You don't have to go sit.
Right, you don't have to sit in a room full of sweaty people or anything.
That was part of the punishment. Was having to go sit and listen to some guy, the third-rate comedian.
Right.
Or you got pizza. I never got the pizza. I just got the third-rate comedian.
Yeah, I haven't had to do traffic school in a very, very long time.
Yeah, do you probably represent yourself?
No. I have plenty of attorney friends that are, competent enough that I would have them represent me. So
let's say I'm doing 95, the downhill on the 73 as you're approaching Newport. The cops notoriously will hang out there.
Absolutely.
So I was in the rolls. It feels like you're sitting still, and I was doing I didn't realize that I was doing 95. And he pulled me. He let me off. He looked like he was preoccupied. But so that's a ticket. That would have been a nasty ticket, I would imagine.
If the speed is, I'll say the alleged speed is 26 or more miles an hour over the posted speed limit, then you're not just automatically eligible to go to traffic school. And so at those speeds, then it's within the court's discretion to allow you to do traffic school. So in that situation, you can't just go to the clerk, pay the ticket, and say, I want to do traffic school, and just do it. So at that point, it certainly makes sense to get an attorney to go in for you because, if you go in yourself and the judge says, well, why do you, I don't know if I can let you do traffic school on this one or whatever, then see, I can argue it for you. And on your own, most people they just become deer in the headlights in a courtroom facing a judge. It's just not.
Well, we're not familiar with it.
Right. It's just not what you do, right? And but it is what I do. So I deal with this kind of stuff all the time. And then of course, if the judge says no, you can't do traffic school, then I'm there to do the trial.
So they'll do it right then and there.
What in a situation like that is I'll go ahead and enter the not guilty plea, set the case for a trial. And if the officer doesn't show up for the trial, then there's about a 99.9% chance the court's just going to dismiss it anyway.
What percentage of the time does the officer not show up?
Well, that depends a lot on which agency and which officer. Highway patrol guys tend to show up, probably 85 to 90% of the time on average. There's a few officers that, for whatever reason, they don't show up that often, especially if they work graveyard shift. But Irvine PD, they're probably going to be there. South Orange County sheriffs from the various cities down here, they're probably going to show up.
26 over the speed limit, what are the penalties for that if you're found guilty?
1 point on your driving record and a fine of $100 plus penalty assessments, which comes out in Orange County somewhere 400 and probably 70, I think it's about 476.
How many points do you get before you lose your license?
The standard is 4 points in 12 months, 6 points in 24 months, and 8 points in 36 months. What happens then is the DMV will send you a negligent operator notice, and they have to provide you with the opportunity for a hearing before they suspend your license. So when I've had those things come up, but I go ahead and set the case for a hearing, and I sit down with my client and we talk to the hearing officer, and being apologetic helps. What are you going to do to change your driving behavior? And usually I can get them out of there without a suspension, but maybe just don't get any more tickets for 6 months, and then you'll be okay. I've had a few where my clients just had too many, but most of the time I get them out without.
Let's say you're not 26 miles over. Is it still worth giving you a call on any ticket?
Well, some people worry about the fact that sometimes the attorney fee is more than the ticket. But on the other hand, you can always take a chance on the cop not showing up, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I tell people is that, look, if you want me to handle it, I'll be there. If the cop doesn't show, I'll take the dismissal. If he's there and you're eligible for traffic school, then I'll set you up for traffic school. But if something goes haywire, then I'm there and I'll do the trial. And
do I have to go? Do I have to be there too, or just you?
No, I can go by myself.
Is the defense better if I'm there, or not as good?
What I tell people is, if there's something that you can testify to that's going to help your case, then you need to be there to testify, because I can't testify for you. The reality of it is that most people probably don't have anything they can say that's going to be helpful. So I can handle it without you being there, and there is an advantage to that at times. There's
some unwritten thought, not a rule, but a thought that you can go 5 miles over, 10 miles over, that there's a certain level that you can go over, set your cruise control, and not get pinched.
There's some truth to that. Generally speaking, most officers are not going to pull you over and write you up for speeding if you're certainly 10 over is probably where most officers have a threshold. But as the reality of it is, in my practice, I see most of them are about 15 over, but not that I haven't seen less.
I've heard that that if you get pulled, that it's a good idea to offer the officer a beer. Is that true?
No, shot of whiskey.
Okay, all right, okay. We got to have whiskey in the car. Well, you have to go back in the trunk and get it, right? Because you can't have an open container. Let's talk. So you can't have an open container if you haven't had any alcohol whatsoever in the compartment in the car itself, right? You have to.
Right. Any open container of alcohol has to be in the trunk. And of course, they recognize that a lot of cars don't have trunks. They have a hatchback or whatever. It's got to be in the back. Certainly not in the back seat, but out of reach of the driver for sure. Mm-hmm.
Why don't we just jump to an accident, response for an accident? Because I remember one time I had an accident on PCH, and I rear-ended somebody, and so I didn't say anything when I came out, but the witnesses said that somebody hit me from behind, which they did, and pushed me in the other car. So it was the person behind me's fault, and I didn't know if it was or it wasn't. It happened so quick. So what do you do if you have an accident?
First of all, stick around. Okay. It's probably best if there's no injuries, then you don't have to call the police. All your responsibility is to stay there and everybody trade insurance information. In today's world, just take a picture of the other person's driver's license, their insurance card, and maybe pictures of the cars or whatever if you need to. If there's injuries, then the cops need to come out anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, the cops are going to try to pump you for information, say as little as possible. You still have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and that's true all the time. And so if you don't want to give them answers, you don't have to. They're not going to be happy about it. But, on the other hand, the police, and when it comes to defining fault, they're generally going to listen to the person that gives them the most information and whatever they say. Sometimes, the first person they talk to is the one they pay most attention to.
So say if you want to set it up, or say I'm 15 over, and what do I do when I get pulled over?
Well, first thing you want to do is always be polite. Don't give the cop a ration of crap, okay? I had a case here recently where my client insisted that the cop was being a jerk, and so I did the discovery and got the officer's body cam video, and my client was a complete jerk. And so be polite. All right, that's just to start with. Provide them with your driver's license, your registration, and your insurance. If you don't have your registration and your insurance with you, then that's not that big of a deal. You don't have to go digging through your car to find it or whatever. I mean, if you got it handy, great. Okay, but otherwise it's just a fix-it ticket, so nothing to make a big sweat about.
Can you define fix-it ticket for me?
That's a correctable violation that, you can show proof that you've corrected whatever the violation is to the court, and the court will dismiss the charge and just charge a $25 flat dismissal fee. Mm-hmm. So that's true of if you don't have your insurance with you, if you don't have your registration with you, you don't have your tags on or whatever, those kinds of things, no front plate, even not having your license with you can be worked out as a fix-it ticket. You should ask them once you've provided that information if you're free to go, but you do not have to answer any questions of the officer. So they're always in investigation mode, all right? So they want you to admit that you are doing whatever, and okay, sometimes if you're honest with them and say, yeah, I'm sorry I was speeding or whatever, they might let you go, but probably not. Okay, that's probably not going to help you.
Yeah, they'd say, well, do you know why I pulled you? And I'd say, well, I can't imagine what it would be. I guess I was speeding, but that I learned quickly.
Yeah, no, and in fact, as of January 1st of this year, they're required to tell you why they pulled you over before they start asking any questions, right? That's a new requirement.
So say a police officer pulls me over and says, did you know you were speeding? Well, I guess the pat answer would be no.
Your answer is, with all due respect, your officer, I'm going to exercise my Fifth Amendment right, and I don't answer questions. My lawyer told me not to answer any questions.
And that's on any time a police officer pulls you over. That's what you would say.
Yeah, because whatever you say, if you go to court or you hire an attorney to go to court, whatever you say, the officer can testify that you said that, and it's not inadmissible hearsay because it's an admission by the party, right? Mm-hmm. You admitted to what you were doing wrong, so it's deemed to be reliable information. So if you don't say, oh, I'm sorry I was speeding, or I'm sorry I ran the red light, or blah, 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 whatever it might be, then the cop can't testify to that at trial, right? So
when do you say or tell the police officer that you want your attorney present? At what point during that process, or how severe does the situation have to be?
Yeah, if you're not free to go and he keeps trying to pump you for questions, that's the next thing. Is after you say, I do not answer any questions, then if he's still asking questions, then I want to have my attorney present for any further questioning, and that's when they have to stop.
If they take your license, all your information, your registration, and walk back to the car, you shouldn't ask if you're free to go until they hand those items back to you, right? Because they've got them. I mean,
well, because you're not free to go. All right. So you're at least detained, right? And so once they hand them back, once you sign the ticket, that's the end of the stop. Right, mm-hmm. And at that point, you should be free to go.
So asking if I'm free to go is not going to eliminate the probability that I'm going to get a ticket.
The first the first moment that you're free to go, then go.
So if well, that makes perfect sense, but probably don't peel out.
No, I would not do
Peel
that.
out.
No.
Unless you
burning
really got
rubber.
a hot car and the cop's a muscle car fanatic, you should ask him probably politely, would you like me to spin to smoke some rubber on my way out of here, on my way to because I got to get back to the bar.
Right, there you go.
What would prompt if you don't have any alcohol in your breath, is there anything that would prompt them to search the car?
I'll tell you what, they sometimes use as an excuse, they might say or think, oh, there's a high crime neighborhood, or, this guy looks funny or whatever. I don't know. He's nervous. And they can ask all they want, but they can't search your car without a warrant. Having said that, if you have contraband in plain view of the officer, that's fair game.
What contraband would be? Drugs?
Drugs, I'll give another example. I had a client that, was pulled over, and he had a tank of nitrous oxide and balloons sitting on the back seat. It's in the back seat. The cop can see it.
So he's got to search it.
Well, he's then has probable cause for an arrest.
Was the guy a clown? Did he have a clown outfit on?
He did not have a clown outfit on.
What, do you remember the Cheech and Chong movie? What was that? Up in Smoke? Do you remember that? So this guy smoked a lot of marijuana inside their van and the window would open up and all the marijuana smoke would come out. I'm surprised they never got a ticket. They must have known all the cops or been in.
Yeah, well, it's Hollywood. What can you say, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that just the mere aroma of marijuana is enough probable cause for a search. But I would have to actually look at case law to figure that out, because I don't do that many marijuana cases. It's kind of unusual for me.
So this is what we're talking about is all related to California. Is that correct?
Yes,
Would make
certainly.
sense.
Anything related to traffic cases and traffic law is related to California only.
Is California more strict than other states?
Yes and no. I had a client, she got a ticket in the state of Virginia for going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. In Virginia, 20 over the speed limit is per se reckless driving. So she hired an attorney in Virginia, was found guilty. Most of the states are on the Interstate Driver's License Compact. All but 5 of the states share driver's license information. So her reckless driving conviction in Virginia came across and reported to the California DMV as a 2-point reckless driving. And so she got 2 points on her driving record. Her insurance company
So
went
I
nuts.
came over from Virginia to here.
Right.
I didn't know things worked like that.
Yeah, Interstate Driver's License Compact. So even though in California, 20 over the speed limit is no big deal, you go to traffic school, no points on your record, everybody goes away happy, but lighter in the wallet. Virginia, not so.
So even if we get a ticket in another state, we should hire you.
No, not necessarily. You can call me and talk to me, and I might be able to find you somebody. But by and large, first of all, I'm not licensed to practice in any other state. But and the states vary so much from one to the next as to what they do and how they do it. I wouldn't even begin to commit malpractice by giving somebody advice on something in another state.
How often is a situation so small that you tell the prospective client, just go ahead and bite the bullet and pay the fine?
I do it when, like, for example, people get tickets in different counties, and I have attorneys that I work with in a lot of different counties up and down the state. Some places it's really hard to find an attorney to handle a traffic case. Up in northern part of the state, there's some counties up there that are just like there's practically no one there. But cell phone tickets, for example, your first one is not a moving violation. Some people choose to just pay them.
How do they know you're on your cell phone? They can just visually see you texting or looking down?
They have to prove that you're either talking on the phone with it in your hand or operating the phone in some way. Usually that means, they see your thumb. They testify all the time. They see your thumbs or fingers moving on the screen or whatever. So it's actually a pretty easy case for them to prove usually.
When I'm driving, can I wear not this type of headset, but the smaller headsets that go into your ear. Can I have both ears plugged?
No.
Can I have
no.
one in one ear?
Yeah, you can put it in one ear, but not both.
There are a lot of people now in the state of California that are concealed carry permit holders, and they teach you they tell you in carry class what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to, if you get pulled, regardless of the circumstance, you're supposed to roll down all the windows and turn your hands, palms up, put them out the window. Then the police officer comes and you tell him, officer, I'm a concealed carry holder. The firearm is on my hip, or the firearm is under the seat, or the firearm is in the glove box. But then the Second Amendment guys, they'll say you're not obligated to tell that police officer you have a gun on there in the car, and that you should not. So what say you on that?
When I took my training, I was told if you're not carrying, you don't have to tell them you're a concealed carry holder. And they don't know anyway because it's not in their records.
Oh, I didn't know that. I figured they went back to the car and they saw it.
No.
So
that's what I was told anyway.
If you've got a gun, if you have a gun with you in the car, should you tell the officer you have that firearm?
If it's properly stowed in the trunk or away, in the hatchback or whatever, properly locked and everything else, I think it goes to plain view doctrine. But again, this is starting to get a little away from what my normal law practice is.
Right.
But if you're physically carrying and it's on your hip or in your waistband like you're supposed to, then you've got to tell them. Yeah.
Even though it's non-detectable visually, which is the way you carry a firearm, you should still tell them you have it.
That's what I was told when I took the training.
Do you want to talk any more about just speeding tickets and tickets like that, or do you want to get to the juicy DUI?
Let me go back to the cell phone thing again just briefly, because even though it's not a moving violation for your first one, some of the insurance companies are raising rates if it shows up on your driving record. Some people will still do traffic school even on their first cell phone violation. It's up to the individual if they want to do that or not.
So traffic school removes it from your record, and then the state doesn't know about it, so they don't give you.
Yeah.
But can you have a violation and not get a point? Any type of violation and not.
There's certain ones that are not moving violations. Most of what comes up, like fix-it tickets, are generally not moving violations, but most of your vehicle code sections are moving, and there's some that are more serious than others. So for example, going up Magnolia Street, the school bus is stopped on the side, has the stop sign out, and the lights are flashing. 3 or 4 cars went sailing right by. I stopped.
That's good.
All right, that's a really expensive ticket. That's about a $650 fine.
And a point.
And a point.
And then the insurance company will be notified by the state of California immediately, or how do they find that information out?
They get it. The insurance companies have access to your DMV record, so they look at your DMV record. Passing a school crossing guard that has the sign up.
Yes.
Not only is that a very expensive ticket and a point on your record, but you can't even do traffic school to keep that one off your record. And so that's a tough one. And exceeding 100 miles an hour is also very serious because obviously you're not eligible for traffic school. You have the potential of 2 points on your driving record. And, of course, your insurance company will just kill you. The judge can suspend your driver's license for up to 30 days. Yeah,
it was interesting on the radio how you would catch little things that were overlooked or something that was done improperly, and you were able to get people off. So can you give me an example of that?
Just recently, I've litigated a number of cases where the traffic ticket form that the officer used to write the ticket and file it with the court was on an outdated ticket form. This gets a little bit complicated, but I'll try to boil it down to the nutshell. The California Judicial Council creates all of the forms used in the California courts, including the traffic ticket form. Technically, it's a notice to appear. All right, so they updated the form, and per the rules of court, which the Judicial Council also produces or promulgates, law enforcement was mandatory they start using the new form as of January 1st of this year. Well, most of the law enforcement agencies within a month or two had the new forms on hand and they were using the new forms. But as it turns out, the Highway Patrol apparently didn't get the memo. So I go in and citing just the vehicle code, and I'm not going to rattle off a bunch of vehicle code sections here, but per the vehicle code, if it's not on the correct form, then the defendant has the right to request that the district attorney file an actual verified complaint, like they would if it were a misdemeanor or something like that. And, of course, the DA's office doesn't want to get involved in traffic, so they don't. And so I've gotten quite a number of cases dismissed because of that just in the last month or so.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. So it happens more. It's not a rare occurrence. It happens relatively frequently.
Right.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good reason to give you a call right there. The fees? I mean, do you bill hourly? Does it depend on the severity of the case?
I charge flat fees.
Mm-hmm.
The severity of the case matters. Mm-hmm. If you're eligible for traffic school or not matters. Basically, like anything in the criminal defense world, the deeper the bucket of crap you're in, the more it's going to cost you to try to get out of it.
Well, that would make perfect sense. Well, I made a comment, Alan, when I came before we started recording, when we sat down, that years ago, I think now, that the cameras were removed at the Del Bispo and
right down here on the 74. Yeah.
What's the Camino Real? Yeah. So they got removed several years ago, and so you said you were responsible for that, partly or wholly. Tell me more about.
Yeah, back in around 2009, I started litigating against red light camera tickets. All right. And so at that time, there were 7 cities in Orange County that were running red light cameras. San Juan Capistrano was one of them. Costa Mesa, Santa Ana was a few others.
Did it truly deter tickets?
No.
It was a revenue producer?
It was primarily a revenue thing. The cops would try to tell you that it reduced accidents, but there was no actual statistical evidence to prove that. But in any event, in 2010, I took a case up on appeal out of Santa Ana when they were running red light cameras, and I got an appellate decision in my favor, and it was a published opinion, and this is one of the places where, because of the published opinion, I can say it. It was People versus Khaled. And so Orange County Appellate Division indicated that they felt like the pictures in the video were hearsay and weren't admissible. Mm-hmm. As it turns out, later on, the California Supreme Court, took the legs out from under that. But it got to the point, that's when the cities that were running red light cameras decided that they needed to have some prosecutor to come in and prosecute the cases rather than just sending the cop in to fumble his way through it. Mm-hmm. Some of the cities, Costa Mesa, San Juan, Laguna Woods, and Santa Ana, they started sending in city prosecutors, and they hired some of them hired private law firms to perform that function for them. So it got to the point where it was too expensive for them to pay this attorney to come in and prosecute the cases if they were going to have to go up against myself, and there was like maybe one other attorney that was really fighting photo tickets, but I did a lot of them. And so for San Juan in particular, the mayor came out in the newspaper and said that if somebody hires an attorney to fight their photo ticket, they're just going to dismiss it. So and my name was mentioned in the article in the OC Register. So my phone.
Oh, that's fantastic!
Yeah, phone started ringing, and so anyway, they just finally gave up and got rid of them. Laguna Woods got rid of theirs. The only 2 cities in Orange County that are still running red light cameras are Los Alamitos and Garden Grove, mm-hmm. And they have a city attorney that we get along just fine. We can get the case, the charge of running a red light, which is obviously the moving violation, changed to a different vehicle code section that doesn't get reported to the DMV, so there's no points or anything. And then we just arm wrestle over the fine amount.
Okay, let's go to I got a couple minor things, but let's go to the DUI. First of all, how do they, other than just sheer dumb luck, like maybe you've got a tail light out or something, how do they know you're driving drunk? Because you're swerving?
most of the time, there's a couple of things that they look for. One, obviously, is weaving. All right. Any traffic violation or vehicle code violation is probable cause for a stop. So it doesn't matter how minor it is. One of the other things is if you're driving with your headlights off at night, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're going to be on you like stink on poop. Try to keep it clean here for you.
So they'll figure you've been drinking.
Yeah.
So let's say you have, hypothetically, you go out to dinner, you have a couple cocktails, so you've drunk alcohol, but you're not drunk. So if the cop asks you if you've been drinking, what do you say?
I don't answer questions. Officer, I'm under the Fifth Amendment. I'm going to exercise my right. I do not answer questions.
So I believe that the first test is they have you walk a line and do different things. I believe that. But how do they smell it? Is that what gets them to pull you out of the car?
I've never heard an officer say that he detected a minor odor of alcoholic beverage. It's always a strong odor of marijuana, if it's marijuana, or a strong odor of alcohol. Right, even if it's a 0.08, or I've had people with as much as a 0.36. I had. All right, okay, strong odor of alcohol, but a 0.08, maybe not. But it's always strong. No, you don't answer any of their questions.
Have you been drinking? Well, I prefer not to answer that without an attorney present.
Yeah, exactly. Don't answer any questions. You want your lawyer if they're going to keep questioning you. Field sobriety tests are completely optional. You do not have to do field sobriety tests.
So you go right to blowing?
No. Well, the only blow that you're required to do is on a certified machine. If it's the little handheld job, that's generally going to be a preliminary alcohol screening. You do not have to do that.
Where's the certified machine at the station?
Generally, yes. There are portable units, and I think the Highway Patrol has them.
So if they if somebody's balance challenged, they say they have peripheral neuropathy and they have balance issues anyway, then they're probably, even if they haven't been drinking, they're going to have a hard time doing this test. So would you advise that you just blanket policy to say refuse to do the test?
Don't do any of them. Don't do field sobriety tests. Don't do a preliminary alcohol screening. Don't answer any questions. Only get out of the car if they command you to do so.
So then if they think you're drunk, they're going to take you to the station. Is that correct?
If they do, and they take you in, what you have given them as evidence to use against you down the road is nothing. You do not have to participate in their investigation, right?
If you're refusing everything at the stop and they still think you're drunk, then they either let you go or they have to take you to the station. Is that correct?
Yeah, if they have probable cause for an arrest, then they're going to take you in.
And then once you get to the station, then what happens?
Well, if you haven't done a blow on a certified machine, then they're going to do that.
If they want you to blow on a machine at the stop, can you just refuse it?
No, they have to tell you that it's a preliminary alcohol screening. If it's preliminary, that's the one you don't do.
All right, but what if they say this is a certified machine?
Well, then it's either that or a refusal is going to be an automatic 1-year license suspension. So you don't want to do that necessarily.
If I get pulled, I know I'm not drunk. I've had a couple drinks at dinner, and hypothetically, and they say, they want to run these tests. So I'm just going to
politely refuse to do any of the FSTs or any of that stuff.
Okay. If the word preliminary doesn't come up, then I would assume you ask them, is this a certified machine?
Yeah, you could ask them that.
And then
or
you do
ask if it's what they call a PAS, PAS, preliminary alcohol screening. If it's preliminary, you don't have to do it.
How many cops have a certified machine in their car?
They will have certain officers in the field that are their DUI guys, okay? So they will call one of those officers out to do the DUI investigation.
Well, can they draw blood out in the field?
If you're going to do blood instead of breath, it has to be by a person that's qualified to do it, and that's not out in the field. That's going to be at the station or at a hospital.
So you have your choice, blood or breath?
Right.
But with blood, I believe you wrote this or you said that they if they do blood, they're going to test for other drugs.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
So
yeah. They're
a lot
going to test for everything else, too. So, yeah, if that could be a factor, then just don't do blood.
So the marijuana is not federal. Obviously, everybody knows this. It's not federally legal, but it's state legal. So, and a lot of people eat these gummies. So if you ate a gummy, how's a guy you didn't drink, but you ate a gummy and you're kind of swerving around because of that gummy? How's the cop going to know that you've got THC in your system?
There's a program that was developed some years ago. It's called a drug recognition expert. And I went to a seminar where a defense expert came in and talked to. That was at the North Orange County Bar Association. About these DREs as they call them, and they tried to collect data so that they could train officers to be able to determine what kind of drugs you're on by doing some tests like looking at your pupils and different things like that. And, the bottom line of it is it's about 90% bullshit.
So they don't know if you've had a gummy or not.
Right.
Interesting.
And the other thing about marijuana or THC as opposed to alcohol, and this is the same defense expert that said this was, when somebody's had too much to drink and they shouldn't drive, their attitude is, no, I'm fine, no problem, I can drive. We've seen it all, right? We've all seen that.
Yeah.
And then, but the guy that's had a lot to smoke,
yeah,
he's like, oh, man, I'm too screwed up. I can't drive. It's the difference in the way that it affects your brain, right?
Yeah.
And so and actually, as much as the law enforcement doesn't want people to know this, there was a study done some years ago again where they had people smoke some marijuana and then do driving tests. Mm-hmm. As it turns out,
they didn't know they thought they were moving, but they weren't. They were just sitting there.
No. People actually drove better with being slightly high on marijuana than they did when they were completely, sober or straight.
There you go, folks. You heard it here. If you want to improve your driving performance,
I still don't recommend it.
Okay. Well, we can get off that subject, I guess, unless there's anything else you need to add, because a lot of people worry about DUIs.
No,
checkpoints. We need to talk about checkpoint.
Yeah, checkpoints. When they set again, same rules apply. Don't answer any questions. The whole where are you going, where you been, if you had any, don't answer any questions. All right. Same thing, but they will often station officers around the checkpoint to try to catch people that, there's a checkpoint. And I'm going to. It's not illegal to avoid contact with the police. It's not illegal to turn into a parking lot or.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not illegal.
Can they come after you if you do that?
Well, they will, and then they'll probably come up with some BS reason to stop you.
More than likely, you're implicating yourself circumstantially. That sounds like a law term, actually.
Well,
really over my skis here.
Yeah.
So you're implicating yourself if you run because I figure you're probably drunk.
Legally, no, because again, this is not an area that I've studied because I just haven't really had. I think I've had maybe one or two checkpoint type cases come along in the first place, but just
pass through and just refuse to do anything. Politely refuse.
Well, if you think you may have a problem, don't pass through, and make a safe legal avoidance maneuver.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll come, maybe they won't.
Turn down a street. Hope you didn't turn the wrong way on a one-way street, or something like that. And that might be a defense down the road if they do tap you for a DUI. And let me say this one thing too.
Go ahead.
All right, I deal with cops every day. Okay, I deal with a lot of cops. And, there are a lot of them. They're just the really nice guys. They're just out there doing their job. They have a job to do. They're doing it. And, we get along just fine. All right. Others, they're not the kind of guys I would necessarily want to hang out with. And I don't deal with cops as much as you do, but I've got to say, in all sincerity, I value the police officers and I respect the police officers. In fact,
I've got friends, and I'll occasionally just buy them lunch if we see them out because they're doing a job they're doing a job that's not only dangerous, but they're doing a job that seems to be unliked by more and more of the general public, which I think is unfair.
No, I agree. Again, they have a job to do. And over the years that I've been doing traffic cases, I've known officers that I used to deal with some frequency that have been killed in the line of duty, and it's sad. There's been a couple of them in particular that really upset me. One of them was a CHP officer out of Riverside, and when I had a case out there, we just, before court started, stand around and talk and, BS with each other and whatnot. And
He got killed?
Yeah, he had somebody pulled over on I-15. Yeah, in this case, he got hit by a car from behind and pinned between the people.
But it wasn't intentional?
No, I don't think it was intentional, but I
you.
think it might have been a DUI.
Oh, that's interesting.
And another one was just flat out shot when he pulled somebody over.
Right.
I mean, so I've known probably 6 or 7. In fact, the officer, excuse me, I think the beach officer that was killed when that helicopter crash is one that I dealt with before too.
So I have another question for you. You came in, you showed me this massive caseload, and so you spent the whole day at the courthouse today. Is that correct?
Well, all morning, yeah. I had one
go ahead.
case that was a felony evading case, which I didn't. That was one I just had to continue down the road a little bit. But I had, I don't know, I didn't count them. At least 25 cases.
So you were there for 25 cases.
Yeah.
How many hours were you there?
Well, I was there from 8:30 until noon.
Was it the same judge on every case? You just stayed in the courtroom?
On all the traffic cases, yeah. The one felony case, of course, in a different courtroom. But
Interesting.
yeah, and I had to wait until it was the arraignment calendar this morning, so they had a lot of pro pers and whatnot doing their cases for arraignment. So my cases were more complicated, and I had argument to make on legal points and whatnot. Many of those cases were cases that were filed on outdated ticket forms, like I mentioned earlier. And so we had to go through them one at a time and everything. So I waited till the end of everybody else is being done rather than, make people wait.
So on your website, your name is R. Allen Baylis. What's the R stand for?
That's Richard.
And you chose to go with Allen because your father's name was Richard, perhaps?
Yes, my dad's name was Richard, so I always used my middle name, and my son's name is Richard, and my grandson's name is Richard, but we all have different middle names.
So your name is spelled differently than what I would think is Baylis. How do people reach you if they want to get hold of you?
Well, I have an office in Huntington Beach. The number there is 714-962-0915, and I have my website, baylislaw.com.
Well, so as I said, and the main reason, well, I thought you'd be interesting, but also when I would hear you on the radio, I would actually say on the radio, if I'm going to get a ticket, I'm calling this guy, and I'm sincere about that. So thank you for coming today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Well, we talked a lot about speeding tickets, but there's literally hundreds of vehicle code sections that you could get tapped for.
Right. So
so any of those kinds of things. And there are times that I just advise people, look, if you don't want to, have me handle it and you just want to do traffic school, that's okay. That's fine. That's your choice. But, especially on cases where the speeds are high or, somebody's got a pretty significant driving record already.
You don't charge to talk to people, though, do you?
No, I don't charge for
That makes
consultations.
sense.
No.
So you have nothing to lose.
Yeah. Just give me a call.
It's Baylis, Baylis Law. So I think this was very, very interesting. I'll tell you, I learned a lot, boy. And so I'm glad we had this chance to talk. And again, my name is Scott Dahl, Dahl Capital Advisors Incorporated. I'm an investment advisor. I've been managing money for over 40 years. And you can reach me at dahlcapitaladvisors.com. That's DOLLCAPITAL, advisors with an O. Thanks again for watching this podcast. I hope you found it interesting and informative. Contact Alan, if you have any questions on tickets, if you have any questions on the market, your portfolio, give me a call. I'll be back. Look forward to being back again soon to talk about the markets again. So thank you again for your time. Thanks, Alan. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thanks. Great to be here, and thanks for having me.
Enjoyed it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.